podcast. We are here to make learning English fun, practical, and easy. If this is your first time listening, we are so happy to have you here. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Emma. Whether you're just starting to learn English or already know the basics and want to improve, this podcast is for you. Our goal is to help you speak and understand English with confidence. We speak at a medium speed so you can follow along easily, but feel free to adjust the playback speed to what works best for you.
Today, our focus is on understand but cannot speak English. But before we dive in, let's remind everyone about the DCD approach.
The DCD approach is all about daily consistency and discipline. These three principles are the foundation of our podcast. By following this approach, you can make English practice a daily habit, stay consistent, and use discipline to overcome challenges.
Let's break it down. Daily means practicing English every day. It doesn't have to be long. Just a short session can make a difference. For example, you can watch a short video, listen to a song, or read a paragraph from a book.
Consistency is the magic that makes daily practice work. If you practice regularly, even for a few minutes, you'll notice big improvements over time. Think of it like watering a plant. If you water it every day, it will grow. The same happens with your English skills.
And discipline means sticking with your practice, even on days when you don't feel like it. We all have busy days, but discipline helps you stay on track and reach your goals.
In each episode, we share simple tips and techniques to help you learn English. Today's topic is one many learners struggle with: understanding English but feeling unable to speak it. We're here to give you practical solutions and encouragement to overcome this challenge.
By the way, if you enjoy this podcast and want to keep learning with us, don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing helps you stay updated with all our new episodes, and it motivates us to keep creating content to support your learning journey. So hit that subscribe button and join us as we learn together. Hello everyone, welcome to the Fluent English DCD podcast. We're here to make learning English fun and simple. I'm Jeff.
And as usual, I'm Emma. To make today's episode even more special, we have a guest with us. Joining us is Sakura, a learner from Japan who has first-hand experience with the challenges of understanding English, but struggling to speak it. Welcome, Sakura.
Thank you, Jeff and Emma. I'm so excited to be here. I've been listening to your podcast for a while, and it's helped me a lot on my journey.
Perfect. Today's topic is something many of you can relate to: understand but cannot speak English. If you feel stuck in this situation, don't worry. You're not alone. We're here to help you overcome it.
That's right, Emma. Let's start by exploring why this happens. Many learners can understand English well because they spend a lot of time reading, listening to music, or watching movies. But speaking is a different skill entirely.
Exactly. One of the biggest reasons is lack of speaking practice. Most learners focus on understanding through passive activities, but don't spend enough time actively speaking. Without consistent speaking practice, it's hard to develop fluency.
I struggled with this exact issue when I was learning Spanish. I could watch movies and understand most of the dialogue, but I froze when it came to having a conversation. Why? Because understanding is passive, but speaking requires you to engage and use the language actively. It's like knowing the rules of basketball, but never practicing on the court. You won't improve unless you play.
That's such a relatable analogy. And let's not forget the importance of muscle memory. Speaking requires physical practice. Your tongue, lips, and vocal cords are like muscles that need to be trained. Without speaking regularly, it's hard for your mouth to get used to producing the sounds of English.
One way to tackle this is to dedicate a few minutes every day to speaking out loud. You don't need a partner talk to yourself. Describe your day, talk about your plans, or even narrate what you see around you. For example, I am drinking coffee, or the sky is cloudy today.
Yes. And if you can find a speaking partner, that's even better. Joining language exchange groups online or finding a tutor can give you the interaction you need to practice. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Sakura, can you share a bit about your experience with learning English?
Sure. I started learning English in school like many people in Japan. I was good at reading and writing, but speaking was always difficult for me. I could understand movies and music, but when it was my turn to talk, I felt nervous and often forgot the words I wanted to say.
That's a common challenge. What do you think was holding you back the most?
Definitely lack of speaking practice. In school, we focused on grammar and vocabulary, but there weren't many opportunities to speak. And I was also afraid of making mistakes, especially with pronunciation.
How did you overcome those obstacles?
I started small. I talked to myself in English every day, even if it was just a few sentences. For example, I'd say, "I am making breakfast," or "I will go to the park later." It felt strange at first, but it helped me get used to forming sentences in English.
That's fantastic. Did you have any other strategies?
Yes, I joined an online language exchange group. I practiced speaking with native English speakers who were learning Japanese. It was great because we could help each other, and they were very patient. I also started shadowing English videos, repeating what the speaker said to practice pronunciation and intonation.
Those are excellent strategies. It sounds like you've made great progress. What advice would you give to our listeners who are facing the same challenges?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are part of learning. And try to practice a little every day. Even 10 minutes can make a big difference. Also, find a way to enjoy the process, like watching your favorite movies or shows in English.
That's wonderful advice, Sakura. Thank you for sharing your story. It's inspiring to hear how you've turned your challenges into strengths. Another reason why learners struggle is fear of making mistakes. Many of us feel nervous about being judged or making errors in pronunciation or grammar. This fear often stops us from even trying to speak.
Absolutely, Jeff. I used to feel this way when I started learning French. I was so worried about sounding silly that I avoided speaking entirely. But over time, I realized that mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. In fact, making mistakes is how we grow and improve.
Sakura, have you experienced this fear while learning English?
I can definitely relate to this. When I first started learning English, I was so afraid of making mistakes that I avoided speaking altogether. One time I tried to order food at a restaurant, but I mispronounced a word and felt so embarrassed. But over time, I realized that people were just happy I was trying. Now I see mistakes as a chance to improve and learn something new.
Exactly. Native speakers don't expect you to be perfect. Most of the time, they're impressed that you're trying to speak their language. Think about it. Would you judge someone who's learning your native language? Probably not. You'd appreciate their effort and be supportive.
A tip I always recommend is to change your mindset about mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures, view them as opportunities to grow. For instance, if you mispronounce a word and someone corrects you, that's a moment of learning. It's not failure, it's progress.
Another great way to overcome this fear is to start practicing in low-pressure environments. Speak with friends or family who are supportive, or try practicing with a language tutor. The more comfortable you feel, the more confident you'll become over time.
That's so true. I also suggest creating a safe space for practice. Record yourself speaking and listen back. It might feel awkward at first, but it's a great way to identify areas for improvement and track your progress.
And remember, every mistake is a step forward. The more you practice, the more you'll realize that those small errors are just part of the process.
Now, let's move on to the passive learning approach. Understanding English often comes from listening and reading, but speaking is an active process. To improve your speaking skills, you need to actively form sentences and express your thoughts.
Absolutely. When I was learning Italian, I spent hours listening to podcasts and watching shows. While my understanding improved, I didn't actively practice speaking. As a result, I could follow conversations but couldn't participate in them. It was incredibly frustrating.
Sakura, did you face something similar when practicing English?
This reminds me of my own experience. I used to watch a lot of English dramas and could understand most of the storylines, but when I tried to talk about them, I struggled. I realized that I wasn't actively engaging with the language, so I started pausing the show to repeat lines or summarize scenes out loud. It made a huge difference in how I practiced speaking.
That's such a common experience, Jeff. The key to overcoming this is to balance passive learning with active practice. For example, after watching a TV show, pause and try to summarize what happened out loud. Or after reading a book, explain the plot in your own words. It's a simple yet effective way to engage your speaking muscles.
Another fantastic strategy is shadowing. Listen to a native speaker and mimic their speech as closely as possible. This helps you practice pronunciation, intonation, and sentence structure in real time. It's like karaoke, but for language learning, and it's so much fun.
I agree. Shadowing also helps you get comfortable with the rhythm and flow of English. You're not just practicing words, but also how they fit together naturally in conversation.
The bottom line is that understanding and speaking are two sides of the same coin. By combining passive learning with active practice, you can make steady progress in your speaking abilities. And don't forget to enjoy the process. Learning should be fun and rewarding.
Another challenge is limited vocabulary recall. Even if you know a lot of words, recalling them quickly in a conversation can be tricky. Understanding words is easier than producing them.
That's so true. When I was learning German, I often found myself searching for the right word mid-sentence. It was frustrating because I knew the word but couldn't retrieve it fast enough.
To improve vocabulary recall, practice using new words and sentences. For example, if you learn the word delicious, use it in different contexts. This meal is delicious. The dessert was delicious. I had a delicious breakfast. Repetition helps cement the word in your memory.
Flashcards are also a great tool. Write the word on one side and its meaning or an example sentence on the other. Review them regularly to keep the words fresh in your mind.
What has been your experience with vocabulary recall, Sakura?
I had a lot of difficulty with this when I first started learning English. I would often recognize words when I read or listened to them, but during conversations, I would freeze. One method that helped me was creating word maps. For instance, if I learned delicious, I would connect it with other food-related words like tasty, flavorful, and sweet. This helped me remember and use them naturally.
That's an excellent strategy, Sakura. Did you find it helpful in real-life conversations?
Absolutely. For example, when I talked about food with friends, I could recall related words easily, and it made me feel more confident. It's like building a web in your mind, so words don't feel isolated.
That's such a smart approach, Sakura. Connecting words through themes makes it easier to recall them during conversations. I also recommend practicing in context using words during role-play scenarios or while writing journal entries.
And another tip is to keep a vocabulary journal. Write down new words you learn and revisit them often. Add example sentences and personal associations to strengthen your memory. Finally, there's unfamiliarity with pronunciation and intonation. Listening to English helps you understand, but speaking requires practice to get the right pronunciation, stress, and intonation.
This was a big challenge for me when I learned French. I could understand native speakers, but my pronunciation was so off that they often couldn't understand me. It took a lot of practice to improve.
One tip is to use pronunciation apps like Forvo or Youglish. These platforms let you hear how native speakers pronounce words and phrases. You can then practice mimicking them.
Another fun method is to sing along to English songs. It's a great way to practice pronunciation and rhythm while enjoying yourself. I improved my Spanish pronunciation by singing along to popular songs. It works wonders.
How did you work on improving your pronunciation, Sakura?
Pronunciation was very hard for me at first. I realized I needed to listen carefully and then practice out loud. I used to repeat phrases I heard in English podcasts. Singing helped me too. I loved practicing with karaoke apps. It was fun, and I didn't feel as self-conscious.
That's fantastic, Sakura. Did singing also help with your confidence in speaking?
Definitely. Singing songs helped me get used to the rhythm of English, and it made speaking feel more natural. Over time, I noticed that my pronunciation improved in conversations as well.
That's an excellent idea, Sakura. Making practice enjoyable is key to sticking with it and improving over time.
And don't forget to record yourself. Listening to your own voice can help you identify areas for improvement and track your progress over time. It's also a great way to see how far you've come.
Another tip I've found useful is practicing with tongue twisters. They're fun and challenge you to articulate clearly, which improves pronunciation and confidence.
Great idea, Jeff. Also, try reading aloud from books or articles. It's a simple but effective way to improve pronunciation while building fluency.
This is just the first of the 5 main reasons we will be exploring in this series. Stay tuned for the next episode where we'll dive into another important challenge and how to overcome it. Okay, now it's time for Learn 10 Useful Phrases from today's podcast. 1. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. This means that the more you practice something, the better you will become at it.
2. Don't let fear hold you back. 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 This phrase encourages you to overcome fear and take action despite feeling nervous.
3. Use it or lose it. 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 This means that if you don't practice a skill regularly, you may forget how to do it.
4. Think outside the box. Think outside the box. Think outside the box. Think outside the box. This phrase means to think creatively or in an unconventional way to solve a problem.
5. Rome wasn't built in a day. 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 This reminds you that big achievements take time and effort.
6. Break it down into small steps. 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 This means to divide a big task into smaller, manageable parts.
7. Every mistake is a lesson. 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 This emphasizes that mistakes are opportunities to learn and improve.
8. Consistency is key. Consistency is key. Consistency is key. Consistency is key. This means that regular practice or effort is essential for success.
9. Celebrate small victories. Celebrate small victories. Celebrate small victories. Celebrate small victories. This phrase encourages you to appreciate and recognize your progress, even if it's small.
10. Take it one day at a time. 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 This means to focus on the present moment and handle challenges step by step. That's it for today's episode. We hope these tips help you move from understanding to speaking English confidently. Subscribe to our podcast and share it with your friends who are learning English too.
And remember, you've got this. Keep practicing, stay positive, and join us next time for more tips and fun.
Bye for now, and happy learning!